Welcome back, everybody, to the Mind Method podcast. We are here with a good friend of mine. This is Garrett Wilson. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking to Garrett because Garrett is one of our massive success stories. Garrett is a client of mine. I had the pleasure of coaching Garrett over the last, 5 months? Not even.
Yeah.
And Garrett has, in front of my eyes, completely transformed. And so, Garrett, why don't you just give everybody just an introduction as to who you are, what brought you to seeking a personal development program, and then we'll dig into how this has completely changed your life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My name is Garrett. I spent the last 8 years in law enforcement out here in Oregon, a pretty large organization that I work for, the largest in the state. I've been super busy with that, and I just started realizing there's just chaos. And while I enjoyed that, I came from the Marine Corps, got into that. I just started to realize I wanted more, right? In life, I wanted to do more. I realized I could help more people. I could help myself, my family in other ways outside of this. And so I started getting into different real estate investing stuff, and I realized that I was just stuck in this, I guess we'll call it the paradigm of like, my identity is I'm a cop, I'm this. And I remember I reached out to you last year initially just to link up through Sub 2 and everything. And I remember I was like, oh, this guy's got it going on. And I had this mindset of like, one day I could do what he's doing. One day I could do this because there's some, similarities there. And I got to a point probably May or June of this year where I just realized like I'm educating myself, I'm understanding things, but I have this weird fear of like moving forward, like doing certain things, and it just held me back in a way. And I was like, no matter how much I wanted, I didn't feel like I was making any growth. I was spending hours and hours and hours away from my family, doing all these different things, hopping on calls with no real progress. And I just didn't understand that. And so I remember I connected with you. I shot you a text back in May or June, and I was like, hey man, I don't know what's going on, but I'm in this weird mental funk. And that's when you kind of told me, hey, like, I got you, like, you should consider some of these things, not because like a mindset coaching to me was always like, you have no work ethic, you suck, you don't know how to do anything. I was like, that's not me. I'm a high performer. I was on SWAT teams. I was on teams in the Marine Corps. I'm a go-doer, but I wasn't doing. And I remember I just kind of humbled myself that night. I was like, you know what, like, maybe that's what I need to do. And yeah, dude, 17, 18 weeks working with you as a coach. First off, like, thank you. I mean, everything, I keep telling you, thank you. And you're like, yeah, I get it. But man, it's just such a shift, because I've been in law enforcement for 8 years, and I had these goals as like, I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to get into this. I'm going to be a full-time real estate investor. I'm a licensed realtor, but that wasn't really enough to leave. And man, 18 weeks in this program, thinking it was going to be a couple years to get to this place. I resigned from law enforcement, which was crazy. I still have friends like, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, it's the weirdest thing, man. And we've talked about it, where everything that has happened, it's just, I've gone from this place of, well, what if this fails? What if this fails? What if this fails? To this awareness and this understanding, like, well, yeah, you could sit here and be negative all day about this, but when you realize the opportunities and you change that vibration, you change what you're focused on. I mean, it's just nonstop. I mean, yesterday alone, 2 amazing deals just landed right in front of me, and I'm like, how the heck? It just keeps going, because I've shifted where my energy's going. I've shifted how that is, and I'm just truly, I mean, like you said before, it's like I feel happier, I feel less stressed, I feel more grateful every day. I spend my morning writing in my gratitude journal and everything, just all the things that I'm grateful for, and then my goals, and it's just been such a change from where I was 5 months ago, right? Which mentally was exhausting, right? I don't want to say I was in a terrible place, but I was in a place where I realized like I'm not getting to where I want to be in life. And so this program, everything you guys have done and you've helped me with, has just changed my limiting beliefs and what I am actually capable of doing, because my identity was so wrapped up in I'm a cop, I'm this, I'm not an investor, I can't do that, I can't piece this together, I don't know how to do that, I'd fail. And that's been a huge change, 16 to 18 weeks, right?
Massive.
Oh my God, you touched on so many nuggets there. I have so many different thoughts, but one thing that you touched on that's really interesting, and I find really consistent with high achievers, is that people really like to be productive and they really like to be doing things. They like to be feeling like they're moving forward. But unless you have that goalpost, unless you have that clear target, sometimes you can be spending hours away from your family and learning a bunch of stuff and doing a bunch of stuff, but not really actually getting where you want to get.
Yeah. And that's been huge for me, is just, I think, like, one of the first calls after starting is I told Matt, I was like, man, like, again, my brain goes to like law enforcement, military. I was like, I feel like I'm this high powered rifle that's capable of hitting my target and what I need, but I had no scope. I had no optics. So I'm just like shooting these long distance goals, and there's no way I'm going to hit that, right? The impact of that. And I just realized this really gave that clarity, right? The goals that I wrote down, I wrote mine on this. Actually, I have it in my pocket here too. On my wallet, my gold card, this neon green card. So every time I pull it out, man,
gold cards, people. This is what it is. You got to have it on you.
Constantly.
Yes.
And it's hilarious because I used to have it on like this muted thing, and I would kind of like do this, like I don't want anyone to catch me in it. And then I was like, no, like I want to make it this neon, so anytime my wife sees me, she knows exactly what I'm doing. And it's like this proud, like, no, I have goals, I have things I'm doing, I have these reminders every day of like, this is why I'm doing these things. And you're right. I mean, it was very much, I'm educating myself on all these things, but if I'm not actually aware of how to do that and what to focus that attention, it was like I was working a full-time job, and then in my in-between hours, instead of being with my family, I'm like, well, I got to get out of this grind. So I'm just focused on educating before I make this leap. And the simple term, right? Like, oh, if I have these things, then I can, do these things, and then I'll be this person. And switching that to, well, if I be this person, I'll do these things, and then I'll have the things I want, right? And I was able to switch that, I think, because of this program and like my awareness of it. It isn't going to create me. I need to create me and go do these things. And that's been huge. It's been huge to not just have tasks that I'm trying to check off a list,
100%. And you said a few things I want to touch on is, number one, you don't get out of life what you put in. Life gives you exactly who you are, right? Life is a mirror. So life will reflect back to you what you already are. So if you want to be successful and be abundant, you need to be that now, right? You need to see yourself as that now. And then you need to start acting that way now, and then you will be those things, right? It's not if one day, maybe one day I'll get the chance, I hope maybe one day, right? And I think a lot of that, like you said, and the one word that you said there is funny, because we were talking about, episode topics, and I was like, I've had like a lot of people in the last few days come to me and say, I need to have a call with you because I don't have any clarity. I don't have a clear vision of my future. I don't have clarity on the goals that I want to set in life, or what I even want out of life. And so the little card that you held up. So if you're for anyone watching YouTube, you can see like we all carry a goal card, and that's a really important thing. So if you're listening, we're all sitting here waving these little cards in our hands. These are epic and monumental in our journey in getting that clarity, right? And now what it does is, by writing out our goals every single day, we're giving that thought energy to the goal, and we're bringing it into reality by attaching our emotion to the goal. And we're creating that image of us achieving it in really great detail, right? And Garrett learned that through the program, and that's why he carries the goal card around, and he's proud to show people the goal card, right? And so, dude, I'm glad to see that you have the goal card with you. And, I've seen such a huge change in you. One question I have for you, because, seeing someone who was so in love with their career, and you have a very decorated career, you went from that, and in under like a few short months, you were retired. So you completely transformed, and now you don't only identify yourself as a police officer. You are so much more of a man and a capable human being, that now you have the ability to control your thoughts, to create what you want in life. I want to know, my question for you is, what does your family say? What is the biggest change and shift that they've seen in Garrett?
Man, yeah. I think the big thing is just like the presence, right? Like I not only did I stop just spinning my wheels and I had more clarity in what I should be spending my time doing, but I mean, obviously, if I leave a 40 plus hour a week job, I'm around more. But I think the big thing for us has just been like, I just am happier. I'm like, I don't want to say bubbly because that sounds lame, but I'm just like this floaty, like I am doing the things I want to do. And when something comes up, whereas in the past something came up, I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. I would be like, well, I can't do that. So I'm just going to go back to this and I'll find a new way. Right. And I think now it's like this excitement of just doing these things that I've always been like, I'm going to do this. You know, like we've talked about, like, I'm a night owl. No, that's BS. Like, you just have to trick yourself into things. So one thing my wife said is like, hey, when you do this, like I worked weird shifts, weird hours. I want us to be on the same schedule. And I think that alone was one of the greatest things for my family is waking up hours before my kids and my wife are awake to do my morning, everything I need to get done, my routine. And then they wake up and I'm present. Whereas before, I'm waking up 3-4 hours after they're already up, and then I'm kind of groggy. I'm grabbing like a Rain or a Red Bull or some energy drink just to like rub the sleep out of my eyes. And I don't want to go play soccer. I don't want to go do this. I don't want to go because I'm tired. I got to get this done so then I can go to work because I got to put food on this. And it's like that's changed to my son's like, hey, I want to go learn how to play catch. I'm like, yeah, let's go do it. Like this stuff can wait. You know, and I think it boils down to a quote you guys had shared when you went to Squat Up. I think it was Squat Up, or one of the masterminds is, let's make sure I get this right. There's no success in business that will ever outweigh failure in your home. And I think for me, that really, that really solidified for me when we were making these changes. Like, yes, we're going to go do amazing things. And yes, I'm blown away at the opportunities in front of me. But I think my family is just so, I guess, more united, more of a family than we've ever been, which is weird because it's like we have less consistency, right? We don't have a guaranteed W-2 income every 2 weeks, but we have time together. We have the ability to say, Camden has soccer camp today. We're going to that. That's a priority. I'll shift everything over. I'll shift my meetings over. I'll spend time focused on those things, right? And I think having that as a family is the greatest thing ever. I talked about, I want the time freedom to be able to do these things. And I always associated that to, I need to make this much money to have this. No, not at all. It was like, I just need to start to allocate time to the correct places. And I think that really helped me, and my wife has seen that and just been immensely grateful. Like, wow, like, you're happier, you're more successful mentally, you're less bogged down by problems that arise because you're just going to figure it out, and you're excited. I'm like passionate about these things that we're doing versus, all right, I got to go to work and I'll do this, and then tomorrow I got these meetings and cramming things in. And I've had my wife and friends just who didn't even know I was doing this, friends of mine who didn't know I was doing a mindset coaching program with you, was, you just seem happy all the time, Garrett. Like what? Did you just win the lottery? And like asking questions, and the fact that that's seen by people who don't even know this is amazing. And so for my family, I would say, like, one, like my in-laws, my mom, like family, they're like confused. Like, what do you mean you quit your job? It's like, I mean, we're doing this. But with my wife and my kids, it's a relation, right? I feel like I was making a life for my family and not a life with my family. And that's changed now. It's huge. So,
Garrett, one thing that I want you to touch on that you mentioned earlier, that is really interesting that I find with so many people, is that people don't actually think that they need help with mindset or personal development. I was like that too, and Matt was like that, and so were you. You mentioned as well earlier that in the beginning you thought, I have a great mindset because I have a really strong work ethic. And sometimes we can associate the two. Like, I work really hard. I don't have a problem getting up and putting the work in and being busy and being productive. So my mindset is great. But it's actually, something that can benefit anybody, no matter what they're doing. So I'm wondering if you can just touch on that a little bit more for anybody who's maybe thinking, I don't need a mindset course. I don't need personal development. My mindset's great.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said before, I think for me, there's a big part that as I made this adjustment, I realized there has to be some changes, right? Like, I can't expect this big, grandiose change in my life without making some type of change. And I always associated that to, like, the physical, right? They're like, well, once I have this successful business running, or once I have this successful thing, then I'll be able to take this transition. And I realized there was that mental block. And I had that moment. And it's funny because I've had two people who I respect greatly prior to even talking to them. I was like, dude, you should take a mindset coaching program. And I almost looked at that as like an insult. Like, why would I need that, right? Why would I, like, I'm killing that. I've been on these teams. I've succeeded in this. I've started a company. I scaled that. I sold it. Like, I don't need a mindset coaching. I need to know the actions I need to take. And yet the irony to that is it's kind of like the way I think about it now is it's like saying, hey, I want to achieve this great physique, but I don't want to go actually train my body. I just want the great physique, right? I want this thing. It's like, to me, it's like, well, I'm training my mind every single day. I'm changing my paradigm. I'm changing my awareness of myself. Mindset coaching wasn't, hey, you got to get out of bed and make your bed. Hey, you got to cook lunch and breakfast, right? It wasn't like these little tiny, I don't have good work ethic or good focus. It's training yourself to understand, like, all these things that I've believed about myself are because of my past, but that doesn't, and it's cheesy to say that doesn't define the future. I was like, well, yeah, I know that. But I think if you can sit down and really humble yourself and sit down and realize, well, if I'm not where I want to be and I have these goals, what's hindering that? Why do I believe I can't do that? Well, because I don't believe I can do that. And I think that was huge for me is as I've gone through this, I've realized, like, I have good friends of mine who are ready to take a leap, and yet they don't make these changes. And I've told them, like, you should do a mindset coaching program. And I've sent them your information because I'm like, this is so much more than action steps and writing down, here's what I'm going to do. It's changed my awareness of who I am as a human being. And actually, I think the best way I've had it put to me, my wife and I were chatting about it the other day. She's like, I think like sub 2 and some of these coaching programs is great for the actions, right? And what you're going to go do and like the how. But this, right, working with you as a mindset coach has helped me change who I am as a person, or at least uncover who I am as a person, right? Get rid of the shrouds of things, the doubts, the limiting beliefs, the hindrances in my life, to the point that things that I've been like, one day I'll do that. One day when I achieve this, I'll do that. I'm already starting to get my pilot's license. I'm just going to buy a plane. Like, we're doing all these crazy things. Like, no way can you do that. I'm not a runner. I don't do that. I'm not built like that. And yet I just went and did a 21K Spartan race. I'm flying to California next month to do another one with friends. I'm just like, we're just doing all the things that I've been like, well, I can't do that because of this, or I have this injury. I'm, diagnosed with this. And so it's like, I've just stopped. And I think the thing, to go back to your question earlier, like, how does that affect your family and like, what do they think about it? I think there's a dynamic of that where it's like, this has not only helped me uncover who I am, but it's also helped my family uncover like who we are as a family and like what we're capable of doing and where we're going to be and what we're going to do. I mean, it's just so uplifting to sit here and be like, this is nothing to do with here's how to make this much money and here's how to get out of your job and here's how to quit this and then you can be happy. It's like, start being happy. Do these things that you say you've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is, right? When I've told myself, I don't need that, I don't need that. These people who I respect are telling me to do this, not because they think I'm weak or I can't do it or, hey, you need to work on this because you're lazy. Quite the opposite. They see that your potential is there. They see that you're actually going to put in the time, that you're right there. You just need to understand your capabilities and your awareness. And I think that's huge with this, right? With you guys and this program was sitting back and whether it's listening to Bob Proctor or weekly calls or just text messages with Matt and just going through, hey, here's where I'm at, here's what I'm working on, clearly defining my goals, writing those down. All these things changed it. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this last thing before I keep rambling about it. When I quit my job, when I left, my last day at work, everyone kept coming up to me like, dude, do you just feel elated? This has to be such a crazy feeling. And I kind of smiled and I said, it feels no different than the last 2 months because I was so mentally in that already. I would walk around a track outside of work thinking, I don't even work here anymore. I'm just here to see my friends. I'm already a full-time real estate investor. I'm already this. And I got to this very uplifting feeling of like creating this paradigm of my life, of who I am, my self-identity. And I think that changed because now it's not hard to take action. And when I truly believe this is who I am, it's not hard to do any of these things that I used to think, well, that's not me, I can't do that. And so that's where I guess hopefully that makes sense with the mindset coaching was has nothing to do with you're weak, you have no work ethic, you don't know how to do the basics. It's how to take you from an elite performer to an elite person, right? A human being where you don't feel limited in your capabilities of those things. So
I love that. That's such a good analogy.
That's huge. I mean, I like that you said too, something your wife pointed out, like programs like Sub 2 and coaching programs that teach you how to execute in real estate are fundamental because you need to know how to do things, right? And real estate is a great vehicle for financial freedom. We know this, and I love Sub 2, shout out Pace. You can't achieve it without it.
Yeah.
But if you have a mental block and you have limiting beliefs and you have a set way of thinking, because we all do. Think of every single person you work with. They all think, well, Garrett's doing it, but he's different. I'm just a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a real estate investor. It's that thought. It's that only thought in their mind that they're entertaining that's limiting them from creating a life that they want to live. And it's crazy because it's really difficult to explain that to someone who's so, like you said, they don't have the awareness that it's only that thought that's blocking them from achieving great success in life. And you do need both, right? Because without having that awareness, right, that you can create anything you want once you control your thoughts, that you can't achieve no matter how much you learn, no matter how many courses in real estate. I mean, I had 5 real estate courses and I only owned a duplex. And it wasn't until, like you, I learned to really unlock my own potential and get rid of all those limiting beliefs and have a brand new story for me and self-image, so that I now entertain thoughts of, well, I could be a billionaire, right? Like, I have no limits anymore. Which is wild. It's really wild, right? To think back, like, look at yourself now. And it's something my coach told me. He's like, you're going to need a telescope after a year because you're going to look back and you're not even going to recognize the person you used to be. And it's absolutely true. And I wonder if you feel anything like that.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me that I've talked to my partner at work, right? I still keep in touch with them. And obviously it's only been a couple of weeks, but I told him, it's like, man, I don't know. At this point in my life, I don't even understand why it took so long to do this. And yet it's obvious, like, I wasn't doing this. I wasn't changing my understanding, my awareness of what it is. And you already touched on, like, I have good friends who are like, hey, when you make it big, don't forget us, right? And it's like, yeah, but you can make it big, right? Like, you can do these things. And the things where it's like, if I can make this much money a year, I'll be happy, right? 5 years ago. Like, that doesn't even touch, like, my annual goal 5 years ago doesn't even touch my monthly goal at this point, right? Which is insane to think about, because I see it and I've started to feel that what I thought I was capable of doing, right? And it's so, I guess I really want to touch on, it's so much more than just like getting a bigger goal and saying, I'm going to go do it. It's really is like, I don't remember the architect, but someone had shared the analogy is like, he created this beautiful masterpiece, this sculpture. Like, oh, that's amazing you did it. It's like, all I did was get rid of the excess and revealed what was inside. And that really helped me understand, like, that's what it is. I'm just getting rid of these limitations in my mind, these things where I've been told my whole life, Garrett, pay attention. Garrett, stop dreaming. Garrett, stop doing this. You need to focus here. This is the box. This is your lane. And it's funny because I think about that. This is your lane. And then I heard a quote. It's like, when you create your own lane, there's no traffic, right? When you start to shift out to, like, this is what I'm doing, there's no one else telling me you need to stay. It's like, I can make that lane even bigger and wider, and I can expand it. And I have. I've taken my first gold card and I've made it bigger, but I kept that first one because I look at it and I'm like, what? Like, what is this petty goal that I had? Like, what is this pathetic little thing? And because that's where my brain was at. That's where my mind was at. This is all I can achieve. This would be an amazing 5-year goal. And I'm like, I could do that in a month. And it just is completely unraveled that, right? I've gone from a financial, hey, I want this money, I want this, I want to create this. I want to have purpose over profit. I want to create something for other people. How can I give? And that's huge for me, right? The mindset is less about the scarcity of how do I keep, because there's not enough to, I have so much I can just give if I just continue to give and give and give. it just comes back to me too, which has been huge because it changes, right? It changes me and it changes the people around me in my life in a really, really positive way, which has been a beautiful and amazing thing. So
I love it.
That's amazing. I mean, I say this every single week. I feel like I'm like a broken record with this concept, but I love that you touched on that. Everybody should want to have more. More is a good thing because we get told so often you should just be happy with what you have. You should learn to just, be where you're at, and that's as good as it's going to get, and just be grateful that you have that. And while that's true, you should be grateful for everything that you have. You should want more because the more that you have, the more you're able to give back. And the more you are able to impact as many people around you as you want, which is actually a really beautiful thing as well, because that's when we take this whole concept of personal development for being for the self, and it actually becomes expanded to, so many more lives that you're able to impact. So I love that you mentioned that. That was really well said. We're really proud of you, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're
Thank you.
You're like
yeah,
a baby.
It's been crazy. Yeah. And I could never say thank you enough. And I won't. 10 years from now, I'll just keep saying thank you. I'll be like, man, I'm here because of this. And it's one of those things where I will always recognize and be grateful for the things that have shifted that, right? Sure. Yeah, you guys didn't wake up and make me write down and call me and be like, you better have written your goals down today. I get that. But you guys provided that, Garrett, you can, right? You this, you that. And then I took that and I am this, I will this. And it's that helps someone shift, right? And like you said, wanting more isn't greed. It's wanting more so I can give more. Mitch from our group, right? I was talking to him yesterday on the phone, and it was an amazing way because we connected in certain things where we said we want to both propel each other here. We just want to give more and more and more, which allows us to grow. So it's getting rid of that scarcity of, well, I just need this much. I used to tell myself, if I made $10,000 a month, I could just sustain and I could just be happy. That's insane. That's insane to be like, that's all I need and that's all I want. I want to do so much more because I can give more. I don't have to stress everything in the finances and life and what we're going to work towards.
Bro, I am so incredibly proud of your growth and your openness and your willingness to put in the time to actually put the principles that we teach our clients to work, because when I took this program and I was the student, I had such tremendous success early on and I attribute it to my commitment and my willingness to do what was required, right? And I think for a lot of people who jump into these kinds of things who struggle, it's because there's that lack of consistency, and perhaps it's that lack of commitment, right? And with you from day one, there was full commitment. You're going to dive in 100% no matter what. And to look back, because your results show, and your results are proof that when you completely commit to learning and growing in your own personal development, the beautiful thing is you're going to grow as an individual, which you have, and you're better for your family and you're better for you in every single way. But then also you're now retired, and then also you're doing more business, and then also you have financial abundance. It's almost dumbfounding at how much is packed in that comes from planting that one seed of, I am going to work on me and I'm going to be the best version of me. And then let's see what happens. And then every other aspect of your life completely explodes.
Yeah, which has been huge, right? And I do appreciate that. I mean, it's crazy because it's kind of like that. You see the people, they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and now you're like, I want that. And yet it's funny because it's such not a comparable thing. It's like, well, this is my life, this is my journey, this is me. And like you said, I feel like no matter what program, what course, anything, if you just join, you're like, all right, they're going to make me better. No, we're going to give you the tools and the success opportunity. And if you put in that time, which how hard is it to find that time? Again, I was working shift work. I do want to touch on this. A millionaire morning to me was about 5 hours after I woke up, right? Which was not ideal. It wasn't prior to everyone else, but that's when I could find time to do it. It was while I was transitioning to go to work, right? It was like, I'm sitting here talking about my life as is and my goals while I'm headed to the thing that I'm like, I don't want to go here, but I switched it and I was just happy. And so I'd get to work and everyone around me is like, oh, we're negative 10 below minimums and this, and it's chaos today and there's that and this. I'm like, woo, like I get lunch today. I'm grateful, man. Like my body works, like my legs work. I got out of bed. I got a breath of fresh air. Like, and people are like, shut up, Garrett. Like, because it's like everyone else is so negative. And I'm just like, dude, this is an amazing life, right? And even to the smallest thing, right? The smallest degree, my gratitude and my awareness of that, like, I almost look back and I'm disappointed in myself. And I was a pretty chronic optimist already, but I look back and I'm like, how dare I not honor my free will, not honor my physical ability to go and do these things I said one day I'll do, but I can't now because it's like, and now I'm just getting up and, even yesterday, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go do this because I'm tired or I'm sore. And I'm just like, but I can. Like, how dare I not go and do the things that I want to do and be who I want to be? And that's such a small thing, but it just has shifted the way I look at challenges or the way I look at my day to day. The same thing with my kids, right? Just spending time with my kids and my wife, going on walks. It's really cheesy, but I love sunrises and sunsets. That is my jam. Every day I am up. I'm seeing that sun. I'm ready. I'm like sitting there, ready for that sun to come up. And I do it every day. And then before I go to bed, I get to watch the sunset. And to me, that alone is worth $1 million, right? It's like every single day I get that. And it really reminds me, that's such a physical thing that reminds me I never had this because of the way my life was, because I believed this was as good as it was going to get. And now something so simple is just appreciating that. It like fills me every day. And it's just like, all right, like I saw the sunrise. I already got 2 hours of my day done. What's next? And so it's been amazing because I put in the time to do that. I took it serious. And there are things that, you called me out. I need some tough love sometimes. You called me out a few times. I'm like, oh, I can't spend time with my kids because I got to get this stuff done and make this money. You're like, BS, man. Like, that's not how this works, right? And it shifted. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop prioritizing work and prioritize family and make a life with them and not for them. And that's been huge. That's been beyond anything I could ever have hoped for in a mindset mentorship or program. So thank you, guys.
Dude, absolutely tremendous. Your story, your journey, and again, we've only scratched the surface. And for anybody who's in a position where they want to hear from Garrett and hear from someone who's a giver, someone who's been through it and who's transformed their lives, reach out to Garrett and have a chat with him and hear the rest of his story about how his whole life has completely changed. And dude, I appreciate you. I'm so grateful that I was able to be a part of your journey. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you for coming on. This was an awesome conversation.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you on the next episode.